that entire event. So I said to myself, we got to get him. And with that in mind, I will. I don't know. I'm gonna guess. Stephanie, are you first, or what's the presentation order here? I should know.
I believe I will go first, if that's
Okay.
how I'm remembering our original
You
presentation.
should be able to take control here. The only thing I do want to mention is we've been recording these, if it's okay,
Sure.
because then we post them on our site for anybody to view later if they're on. So if you're fine with that, I'll go ahead and continue the recording. I do ask everybody to mute yourself. I can mute everybody, but then the speakers have to unmute themselves. So I've been muting the people that have noise in the background. So if you get muted, it's me. All right, Stephanie, thank you.
All right, I will go ahead and share my screen, and I'll go ahead and give my own little mini intro to before my part, and I imagine Jill and Karen will do the same when they get to theirs. So let me just share, just to get set up. You guys see that okay? Thumbs up? All right, good deal. Well, good evening. My name is Stephanie Thurber. I am the magazine manager for the Conservation Department's communication branch. I have the privilege of managing the two magazines our department produces, the Missouri Conservationist magazine, as well as Explore magazine for kids and for kids at heart. Little background about me. I started at MDC in 2007, right after I graduated from the Missouri Journalism School. I started as a graphic designer, and I worked on the Conservationist doing layout. And I was on the team that helped start Explore in 2010. And I've been in my position for about 1.5 years now. And I'm very excited to see both magazines evolve and grow. And I think what I love most about my job at the department is just learning all the neat info that I then get to share with my family and my kids. My kids are 8 and 5, and we have a lot of fun hikes planned this spring and summer in the St. Louis area. So really looking forward to that. So for tonight, my part, I will give an overview of how the Missouri Conservationist has changed over time. The Conservationist has been published for quite a while, over 80 years now. At its core, the magazine exists to get Missourians informed and excited about nature, as well as instill support for conservation efforts. So I will very briefly go over how the magazine began and how it's changed over time. I'll mostly talk about how the magazine looks now and how we got to its current form by going into a bit of a deep dive of our last redesign and talk about the research that led to those changes. And then of course, I'll finish up with where the magazine is headed and some hopes and dreams for our future. So taking us back to the beginning, when the department was first officially formed in 1937, it was called the Missouri Conservation Commission. Right from the beginning, this organization knew that good public information was vital for long-term success and sustainability. Just 1 year after its formation, the Missouri Conservation was published as an 8-page quarterly tabloid. E. Sidney Stevens was the first chairman of the Missouri Conservation Commission, and in that very first issue of the Conservationist, Commissioner Stevens wrote a short column that laid out a strong and pretty straightforward foundation for the magazine to its readers. He wrote that it was being published to provide information for the guidance of individuals and groups interested in the conservation of wildlife. Its purpose was to inform, and he went on to call it an experiment, and that the future of this publication would be determined by reader interest. The Missouri Conservationist ran quarterly for several years until spring of 1943, when it changed to a monthly magazine format, which also meant the use of two-color printing as opposed to all black and white. It's been published monthly ever since 1943. This slide gives us a quick visual snapshot of how the magazine has changed over the years. Overall, the Conservationist has stayed up to date with printing improvements like using full color, upgrading paper quality, and making the switch to recycled paper in the 1980s, as well as adopting typical magazine sections like the cartoon, letters to the editor, and dedicated columns for specific writers and specific topics. And these are all elements that readers can come to expect when they pick up any magazine, and it speaks to how the product has adapted over time to stay relevant. One particular success of the magazine's history that I'll highlight is the use of a special issue in August of 1975. This whole issue is dedicated to explaining and building support for the Design for Conservation sales tax plan, which many of you know is the 1/8 of 1% dedicated sales tax that goes directly to conservation. This issue would have reached about over 200,000 Missouri households at this time, and it used every page to lay out details of the plan, how much it would cost, examples of how the money would be used. It was very transparent and upfront about the cost and challenges of specific programs. It was passionately written and beautifully presented with artwork from Charles Schwartz. And I think it's one of the best examples that we have of the magazine using all of its strengths to inform, inspire, and empower readers to take action that directly benefits conservation. We all know the following November, when that proposed dedicated sales tax was on the ballot, Missourians overwhelmingly voted in its favor. So today, the Missouri Conservationist magazine still serves to inform the public and connect them with nature. The magazine is free to Missouri households, and it's also available to non-residents, both out of state and out of country, for a small fee. The Conservationist has over 555,000 subscribers, and if you take into account multiple members belonging to each household, doctor's office copies that are shared, this gives us a readership reach of well over 1 million people who read the magazine each month. And we do have subscribers in all 50 states, as well as 24 countries around the world. This slide shows our subscriber growth over time. When the magazine started in 1938, it was sent to just 10,000 subscribers. Today, we have over 555,000, as I said. These are almost all print subscriptions. About 490,000 are print. We did add digital subscription options in 2016. We count all of these towards our overall subscriptions, but just want to point out that print is still very much the dominant media. And our numbers might seem very high, and we are definitely proud of them. But just to put this in perspective, our in-state subscriptions only represent about 20% of Missouri households, so there's definitely opportunity for more outreach and engagement. And one big way that the magazine has worked to stay relevant in our ever digitized culture is to offer content in different ways. In addition to the traditional print format, the magazine can be viewed as a flip book or an online PDF. And the flip book edition is an interactive digital magazine that readers can view on their phones or their tablets, either through our website or our free mobile app, the MoCon Mag app. It has the same stories and information that you'd see in the print product, but it has what we call value-added content, like photo galleries, videos, audio clips. The links are live, so you can just click on them. And our online PDF is available as a digital subscription where readers can sign up to be notified each month via email when the issue is ready to download. This is a great option for folks who live out of state, or they want to get a magazine, but they want to save money in paper.
What do you mean?
And these three options make up the Conservationist total subscription. That's how we get to our 555,000. So, talked about the magazine's beginnings, brought us very quickly through the years to our present. Now I'll take you through a bit of that deep dive of how and why we made the latest changes to the magazine by talking about our 2017 redesign. First, I think it's really important to bring up the trust factor for magazines. Getting the same consistent quality product month after month, it establishes trust with our readers when they know they'll get it on time, when they know where to find their favorite section, when they know that there will be content that just brings them joy. That's a good relationship that they have with not just our magazine, but it reflects back on the department and ultimately our larger conservation community. And even now that we have digital magazine media, that same basic rule applies. Consistency builds trust. So going through a major redesign really stresses that trust and sometimes breaks it. And this is why redesigns must be taken with great care and why all the changes are usually made in one swoop, sort of like ripping a Band-Aid off super fast to get it over with. For us, with more than 1 million readers, making changes are a big deal, and we want to keep that good relationship and trust. So why even change, right? Well, if you look at the magazine industry at large, you'll notice that magazines typically get redesigned about every 5 to 7 years, some much more often than that. They do this for a number of reasons. To freshen up the magazine's look, most often because of new leadership or a person at the top. Stay up to date with latest reader preferences, attempt to reach a new audience, or to reflect a shift in the publication or brand's priorities. For us, with the purpose of the magazine being to inform and connect our readers with nature, we're always looking for ways that we can strengthen that connection. So for this redesign, our top priority was to refresh the look. The previous redesign was in 2007, so for 10 years it had had the same look and was starting to look a bit stale and get outdated. We also wanted to highlight new content that we thought would be relevant to our readers. To help us reach our redesign goal, we had some key objectives. We knew we wanted to freshen up the look while staying true to our history. We wanted to offer readers content that they could easily see a benefit from, answering their question, well, what's in it for me? Otherwise known as, why should I care? We wanted to emphasize reader-friendly, info-rich content, and by that we mean presenting our content in a way that readers can quickly understand what we're talking about and grasp why it's important. This would be done using infographics and visuals. We are a science-based management agency, and our articles talk a lot about scientific studies, research, and biology terms, and we wanted to make sure that our articles could still be understood by the average reader without needing any kind of advanced degree. And we wanted to find ways to work with our social media in the magazine, ways to engage readers by cross-promoting content on our popular Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram channels. So with our objectives in mind, we then set out to understand our readers better. It's vital for us as a magazine to understand who makes up our reader base. We want to know who they are, what they like, and how they use our content. So in spring of 2016, we sent out a written survey to over 20,000 subscribers, and we conducted 4 focus groups around the state. Over 14,000 subscribers participated, which gave us a response rate of about 76%. And from the surveys, we found that our reader demographic is pretty narrow. 75% are male, 96% are white, and 90% are over the age of 60. To compare this with the last reader survey from 2006, the male to female ratio is very similar. The race breakdown is basically the same. But the big change was age. Past surveys showed a much broader range spread out over generations. 2006 shows just under half of our readers were in that 60+ age bracket. In fact, one of our very early reader surveys, if not the first, from 1983, specifically mentioned the wide reader age range, and it was from 6 to 99. For preferences, we know that readers like our visuals the most. Any type of wildlife photo, folks just go nuts over. Visuals serve as a hook. They catch the reader's eye and they pull them into the story. Specifically, readers told us that they preferred seeing animals, plants, and landscapes over people, and they preferred photos over artwork. And readers also told us that they like content they can learn from, like animal facts, natural history, feature articles that teach or inform. For how readers use the magazine, 53% of those surveyed said that they use the Conservationist to plan outdoor activities, specifically ranking that outdoor hunting and fishing calendar and places to go sections as being our most helpful in that regard. So once we analyzed the reader survey results, we realized that the biggest challenge we had was reconciling our current narrow demographic with wanting to foster new generations of conservationist readers. Our demographics over time is showing us that we're missing out on engaging with a good chunk of our residents. We saw this redesign as an opportunity to try and expand our readership. This was a constant balancing act, not only throughout the redesign, but still to this day, because we want to provide content that not only appeals to a new audience, but that won't alienate our reader base. We had our objectives, we did the research, we put in hours of brainstorming and meetings, design work, which finally led us to our finished product. This version you see on the screen is what launched in July 2017. And the next several slides are going to show some of the pages from before and after the redesign, just to highlight the updates and changes we made. Here we have our cover, very similar, just updated our Missouri Conservationist logo to reflect our updated fonts. We stuck with typography that was legible and clean and that would appeal to a wide audience. We also didn't want the logo itself to detract from the amazing cover photography. We updated our I Am Conservation section that used to be on our back cover to become We Are Conservation. We did this to highlight not just one person, but partnerships, and to mark the shift from emphasizing an individual's accomplishments to community achievements and progress that we're making by working together. We, the larger we of the conservation department, we want to be an inclusive conservation community. So our hope is that this small change in the magazine helps in that regard. We now use our back cover to cross-promote our Instagram. We're able to highlight the beautiful wildlife and landscapes our readers love, while reminding readers of another way that they can engage with the department. And we then post the same image on Instagram right before the magazine hits mailboxes to cross-promote the magazine to our Instagram followers. Get Outside is a revised section that highlights ways our readers can connect with nature. These are ideas and events people can go physically do or see each month. Examples run anywhere from a specific program offered at a nature center or virtually now, or simply pointing out which flowers are in bloom or what critters are around. Our Places to Go section went from 1 page to 2. Here, readers can see what the area looks like, where it is, what they can go do and see when they're there. And through the survey and focus groups, readers told us that this is one of those sections they use to help plan outdoor activities. So we wanted to be sure to include as much helpful information as we could to get them there. Wild Guide is our section that used to be called Plants and Animals. We repackaged this section to be more like a field guide entry because we know from our research that readers simply love learning about plants and animals. This new format still shows the beautiful photos and goes in depth on one species each month. Finally, I'll wrap up the redesigned deep dive portion with Nature Lab, which is our new department that highlights the research MDC does in order to improve our fish, forest, and wildlife management. This page has visuals to hook the reader, as well as graphics and brief explainers that help tell the technical side of the story, which breaks down the science and biology into layman's terms. So print is definitely not dead. You might have heard that phrase in the past, but that is not the case, at least not for magazines. Media research shows that paper-based reading stimulates emotions and it drives sensory involvement, which means that readers get more out of print. People who read from paper products can remember information better. And while we're living in a digital-first world, people of all ages, even millennials, even Gen Zers, they enjoy reading print magazines. Media research also tells us that traditional print media is generally more trusted than digital outlets, which is really good to hear when trust is such an important value and topic today. The Missouri Conservationist may have been one of the first communication tools for the department, but it's certainly not alone anymore. We are just one part of MDC's communication efforts. We know that magazines today aren't going to hit every interest for every demographic at every point in time. So rather than try to be all things to all people at all times, we stick to a magazine storytelling format that focuses on informing, inspiring, and empowering readers so that they can connect with nature. We work within the larger umbrella of MDC Communications to try and reach all Missourians. So what does the future of the Missouri Conservationist magazine hold? Well, we know where we want to go. We sure hope that we've been taking the right steps so far to get there. We definitely want to widen our audience and be as inclusive as possible. We want to cultivate that conservation community within our readers. We want to build and maintain trust with these readers and for the department. And the ultimate goal is to inspire people to act and engage in some way that creates lifelong conservationists. How will we get to where we want to be? It's time to survey our readers again. We hope to do both online and written reader surveys in the next year, this year really. With more surveys, we want to check our demographics and to see if they've moved that needle at all, and to see if reader preferences have changed. The world, our state, the conservation department, it's changed immensely over the past 4 years since we implemented these changes. So in order to stay relevant, we need to check in often. We know that we can do better to represent diversity in our magazine. We know that people are more likely to relate to something, more inclined to try something new, or think that there's a place and space for them if they see someone who looks like them doing it first. This is definitely an area that we are working toward breaking down that barrier. And along with including all people in our pages, we are being inclusive in the conservation topics we include. You know, it's not all hunting and fishing every month, and at the same time, it's not all birding and nature viewing. Conservation includes a wide range of interests, and every month we work toward a balance of articles that reflect that. Updating the magazine to stay relevant over time, it goes hand in hand with addressing current challenges and opportunities. The Missouri Conservationist today can still remain true to its founding principle to inform, to guide those interested in the conservation of fish, forest, and wildlife. We are simply fine-tuning how we connect with readers every month, helping them to understand who we are, what we do, and how it impacts their very quality of life. And with that, my portion is finished. I don't know if anyone has questions now. Feel free to jot down my email, or I don't know if Michael, you want to do questions at the end. I'll stick around. I'll stop sharing somehow.
Lots of questions here. First one, I'll probably start off with, if it's okay. And Karen is probably leaning forward on this because I took a few notes here that we've got a diversity committee that we've been working on. And one of the things early on that I kind of questioned about is whether the reason we don't have more diversity within our chapter may not be lack of interest, but lack of information getting out to those folks. So we've hooked up with a Facebook site called Outdoor Afro that has allowed us to join up with that and kind of view what the African-American community is doing within our area. Our whole chapter is really centered around an awful lot of urban issues. The parks that we volunteer at, the work we do is heavily centered around those areas. We do it in other ones too, but we're very much centered around the St. Louis area with our focus. But you don't see that a lot in the ranks of us. So I think that's a great thing that you guys are doing, is trying to look at that market. I think the information is not getting out to everybody. I know I had Missouri Conservationist in the house since I was a kid, and you might not be able to tell, but I'm not the youngest guy within this whole environment here. So most of us probably grew up with that in our house, but I can't say everybody had that advantage and then got hooked into it. And that's how I got into Missouri Master Naturalist, is because of email and so forth. So if you can talk to us just a little bit more about that. I'm sure Karen's going to have more to ask about that because I've got other notes here too.
Sure. Yeah, I know we sort of separated on our end, thinking of in terms of how we can represent diversity in our content and then how to market to different audiences. Karen, I'll let Karen speak to the marketing side of things, but it has to start, I think, with the content. And so that's literally a meeting that we have Thursday on how we can create and build and sustain diversity in the magazines. A lot of it, I think, starts with the photography. Like I said in the presentation, if folks see someone who looks like them, they just instantly have a connection, and so they might be more interested. And how we get those photos is sort of a topic of interest too. Do we sort of fake it till we make it? That's one avenue. Do we buy stock photos to get that initial audience and interest, or do we have to go around and, sort of find a token person to represent that audience? It's sort of an uncomfortable topic, but it needs to be had. That conversation needs to be had. So we're having those discussions now of how we can do better, because we know we can do better. Missouri's demographics aren't reflected in the magazine every month. So for us, it starts with the content. I don't know, Karen, do you have any marketing topics to add now, or maybe you can?
Yeah, so I definitely think it does start with the content, and visuals are so important. We do want to be inclusive. I don't think we were not inclusive on purpose before. It was just the world that we were in and the people who we worked with or still work with. But the desire to be relevant in all Missourians' lives and to bring that within the Conservationist and all of our products, that desire is definitely at the organization. There are some other barriers out there that we know, especially are in the urban areas, just to getting out and enjoying nature. And, some of them are just, you wouldn't think they would be this simple, but a lot of people are just scared to go out in nature. They pull up to a parking lot and it's gravel, but then they see that the path isn't concrete. They're worried about what's going to bite them, eat them, or what rash they're going to get. And so just sort of overcoming some of those simple barriers is really important. And another big one is most people in the state think that going outside to enjoy nature means it's going to take a lot of time and you're going to have to go really far away. But fun fact, you can get to a conservation area within 20 minutes of almost any place in the state. Now, they're not all the same. Not everybody's going to have a nature center, but you can get someplace to enjoy nature. The other thing that we're kind of heavily focused on is getting folks to enjoy nature right where they're at in their own backyard too. So.
Good.
I have a suggestion for you. I think you could do a feature article on the master naturalists in St. Louis who are doing urban projects like O'Fallon Park and Forest Park, because, the demographics for us don't, you can look at ours. We're not, we have a lot of females who are very active. They're not all white elderly males like myself. And I think you could focus not only on the urban projects that we work on, but also, our outreach program.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't mention earlier, the reason I referred to Karen, because she leads our diversity committee within the board right now. And I see Dave Richardson on here. This is appropriate because Dave has been helping us out a lot with this effort too. Trying to connect us with folks that can give us more insight into it. And I really wish we can have some more discussion about this with the Missouri Conservationists, because this is exactly what we talked about very early on. Is I think the message isn't getting to folks that this availability is here for the general public. So you're getting what we're advertising to. More and more, I see more insight into the community. I see that there's a lot of interest and a lot of desire. We were just out at Spanish Lake doing some work out there, and a gentleman walked up to us and started chatting to Bob, Larry, and I, and had just, I hope we can stay connected to this gentleman. I'm trying to remember his name again, but Michael, I know his name was Michael, had so much insight and so many suggestions and wanted to be so involved in the community up there, but wasn't familiar with what was available to him. Sorry, I'll over talk on that subject, or we will as a general.
And Stephanie, I have a question. This is Karen. So I know on some outreaches that we've done for Powder Valley, for example, we have been able to take magazines with us to distribute to the public. So is that something we could do for other outreaches that we do, even if they're not connected to MDC, you think? Could we contact someone and maybe get some of those to take into for some of those outreaches?
Definitely. Our broad guidance to that is if it fits within the larger conservation message, we're all in it together. If you're not, doesn't matter if you're, an MDC office or not, happy to help out. I would contact our circulation office. You can always shoot me an email and I can forward it on to Laura, who's in charge of our circulation, but they get those kinds of requests all the time. And Missouri Master Naturalists, I'm sure, will definitely be able to help you out.
Okay, thank you. Because I get both magazines, and I'm the grown kid, that you were talking about. I love it. I love Explore, and I think to get that out to those targeted communities would be really a great idea too.
Definitely.
So, thank you.
Stephanie, I was just wondering what kind of feedback you got when you made the big changes, because I know when I first opened that magazine, I was like, wow, this is totally different. So it gave me pause, but I was able to read it, read it cover to cover, of course, because I've been a huge fan for a long time. But what kind of feedback did you get? I'm sure some people were shocked.
Yeah, it was a big change. It was overwhelmingly positive. We had quite a few negatives stand out, and I think it more just came from just change in general. Like I said, you want to rip off the Band-Aid, but it was a big change from how we had it. I know personally, one of my favorite magazines redesigned a few years ago, and I unsubscribed right away. It was a total change, and I hated it. So I totally get it. I understand completely. I think as folks kind of stuck with us, and got used to it, I hope that everyone saw that at the core, we still had the good articles, the great photos. We just kind of changed up how it looked a little bit. But yeah, I think we still get some feedback every once in a while, folks who say they've had it for years and years and decades, and they think it's the best it's ever been. And I love that. I look back at old issues in our archives, and I think, man, that was some good stuff back then, and we have some good stuff now. So it's just like everything, change is hard, but yeah.
Let me unmute so I can talk there. I think you still have other presenters, right?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't mean to make this Q&A go on too long, so if we can go ahead on the other presenters, please.
That's all right. I think Jill will take it away, and I'll go ahead and mute myself and let her go.
Yes. Hello, everybody. I hope you can see me okay. It's been a while since I've been on a Zoom meeting, and it's actually really refreshing to see so many faces on here. Stephanie and Karen can always attest to whenever we have WebEx meetings, everybody usually has their video off. So it's always so refreshing to see people's faces. So thank you for having me. I'm Jill Pritchard. I work for the Department of Conservation as well. And I was asked to present tonight on MDC's new Nature Boost podcast that we have produced, and why MDC as a department chose to produce such a product. So I'm gonna go ahead and get set up here with sharing my PowerPoint. Make sure I've got it all here. Oh, whoops. Can everybody see that okay? I hope you see the actual PowerPoint and not the presenter side of it. Okay. Well, here we go. We're going to talk about the Nature Boost podcast and how MDC turned up the volume on putting out such a project that we're also lucky to get a chance to work on. So real quick, again, I'm Jill Pritchard. I work in statewide communications for MDC. I'm the statewide news services coordinator, and I am also so lucky to be the host of the Nature Boost podcast. And Karen Hudson, she is our marketing guru, and she'll kind of give us more insight on how we marketed the podcast at the end of this presentation. So we'll hear from Karen here in a little bit. So just a quick overview of what you can expect and what we'll cover during this presentation. We're going to go over those MDC supporter demographics and those barriers that Karen was talking about that some people face when it comes to enjoying nature and being outdoors. Then we'll talk about the podcast and how we marketed it and the results and what we're looking forward to in the future as we move forward. So let's get into it. So before we launched this project, we had discussed several ways we can reach a younger audience without alienating our current supporters, something Stephanie was talking about earlier. How do we get millennials and the yaya generation curious about Missouri's outdoors? And whenever I say yayas, if you're unfamiliar, that is youth and young adults. So we had to look at our current supporter demographics. And again, Stephanie was talking about that. You can see it's not very diverse. It's mainly white males over the age of 50 who like those traditional outdoor activities, who like to hunt and fish, and they love their shooting sports. So on the flip side, we had to do some research on why we weren't reaching younger people. And as Karen was talking about earlier, there are some barriers there. When surveying that younger audience, we found that they were afraid of nature, like Karen was saying, getting the rashes, getting bitten, or they thought nature was too far away from home, or they were just simply too busy to find time to enjoy it. So those were the common themes that we aimed to debunk when starting this new venture. And we also narrowed down that target audience to not only include yayas and millennials, but also minorities, females, city dwellers, those living in larger cities as well. So when discussing the best way to reach these groups, we had thrown around a few ideas, but we believed launching a podcast was a great way to get the word out about MDC, just given how popular and easily accessible they are. As you can see, a 2019 survey from Edison Research and Triton Digital found that 50 or more than 50% of people ages 12 and up listen to or have listened to podcasts. So they're pretty popular, and it found some big percentages showing how popular it is with young listeners in general. 40% ages 12 through 24, 39% ages 25 through 54. So everything was kind of pointing us in the direction of, you know, it's just solidified that this is something that we need to explore. Oh, oops. So Nature Boost was born, and what I like a lot about the episodes that we have is that they are of shorter length, which I always say is great because they're not that big of a commitment. You know, people can listen to it on their commute to work if they are still going into the office, or, you know, on their lunch break. Short and sweet is really what we were aiming for. And we also have a mix of format styles with narration and conversational. Some episodes are strictly like you're listening to two people having a conversation, while others are a lot more produced and edited with transitions, music, even adding natural sound from Missouri's outdoors. So they're just a little bit more interesting to listen to. So we do switch it up with two different format styles. When discussing topic ideas for our first season, nature and health was definitely at the forefront. There has been a lot of research showing just how popular self-care is with the younger audience that we were targeting. And we really wanted to touch on how important incorporating nature is into your life for that mental and your physical health. And this was especially needed as we launched during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, and many were turning to nature for comfort and stress relief, and they found themselves working from home and mostly just something to get them out of the house. So we launched Earth Day 2020. We came out with our first season with 4 episodes featuring MDC experts and partners. And really the 4 episodes just focused on how, nature is just good for your physical and your mental health. And we partnered with Hubbard Radio out of St. Louis to get the podcast out there for streaming on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play. And we really targeted that younger, more diverse audience in those urban areas. So getting into marketing, again, Karen can touch more about this in a second, but we did hit hard on social media for Facebook and Instagram promotion. We advertised on urban radio stations that were popular with young adults and women. Hubbard was able to include 30-second audio promos on their streaming platform Podcast One, as well as on many of their radio stations. And we made sure that we were getting the word out with people who showed interest in topics such as nature, health and wellness, outdoor recreation, and just podcasts in general. So what did we find? Well, we were very thrilled to see that we had more than 7,000 downloads in the first month across all of those streaming platforms. Now, just to put that in perspective, the average podcast racks up around 140 downloads in the first month. An episode with 9,000 puts you in the top 5% of podcasts, while about 3,400 downloads puts you in the top 10%. So we were very thrilled with that outcome. We had very successful ad reach on Facebook that led to more than 27,000 link clicks back to the Nature Boost page on the MDC website. And our Instagram promotions were also very successful, which led to an ad reach of around 3 million. So we were very thrilled with the outcome with the promotion. So we know it was popular, the podcast was popular, but our main question is, did we achieve our goal of reaching that target audience? Well, our analytics showed it was definitely being streamed in urban cities, which was one of our goals. Top downloads were in St. Louis, followed by Kansas City, and then Chicago, which was a little surprising because we weren't expecting out of the state. We also found the podcast did skew female, which was also another one of our goals. But something we weren't expecting was not only the out-of-state listeners, we had some in California as well, but international listeners. People were listening to it in Dominican Republic, Taiwan, Malaysia, India. Other details we found was that many people like to listen in the morning. Peak downloads were in the morning hours, and that Apple Podcasts was the top streaming platform, which honestly didn't come as too much of a surprise, just considering how popular iPhone and Apple products are. So what's next for the podcast? Well, we launched our second season focused on wildlife in the fall, and I have a little audio, it's a radio promo just to give you an example of some of the stuff that we would air on radios and on other podcasts as well.
I don't think it's coming through.
So we put that on our Instagram page. And again, that was just an example of radio promo that we have to get the word out there about the podcast. So we did launch our second season on wildlife in the fall, and things that we're looking to change up in the future, instead of focusing on a season release schedule, we're switching it up this spring by releasing a new episode each month. And the thing is, there's such a demand for new content when it comes to podcasts or just digital media in general. So many people looking for like that instant gratification, and they love to binge on the episodes. So by releasing a new episode each month, we think it'll satisfy listeners' demand for new content and make the podcast just more consistent. So listeners can know they're getting new content each month, and they know when to expect it. We're also launching a new form for listeners to submit topic ideas for episodes on the MDC website. And we believe that having them submit their ideas or just addressing their questions could increase the popularity of the podcast and just also create a sense of community by allowing listeners to have voice. And we're also we're thinking about extending to more platforms. That's something that we're discussing as well, just to drive more awareness, possibly producing some videos for YouTube to go along with episodes is something that we've got in the back of our mind. And just especially as we are on the verge of launching a new schedule this spring, we're really looking forward to whether or not we get a change in responses and reviews, the number of downloads, and just the changes in listener demographics in general. So we're hoping that we have something more positive or additional positive stuff to share in the future on the podcast. So on that note, I'm going to let Karen chime in and take it away on the marketing side of things and give you some insight.
Hey, Jill.
Yes, ma'am.
On the radio, we couldn't hear the commercial. Would you want to go back one and maybe I could barely hear it. I don't know with.
Oh, okay. I can try to. Oh, whoops. Let me see if I can turn it up. Here, I'll try it one more time.
I think there's a button you need to push that says something along the lines of play computer sounds on the Zoom or something like that.
Oh, okay.
It's a good spot. I would love everybody to hear it if we can.
Let's see. Well, let me try this. I turned it up a little bit. Let's see if hopefully you can hear it.
I still can't hear it very well.
Oh man, okay. Well, that's too bad. I wonder why I can't.
I think if you go to share screen at the bottom and then hit like share computer audio, it's like something under share screen that you have to do, like play computer sound under advanced sharing options.
Oh, okay. I'm already sharing my screen. I could try to. Let's see. Oh, maybe share. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's try this now. Thank you for that.
Nature Boost is back. Missouri has bear country. And this season, we're talking wildlife big.
View the elk. They're really cool, and it's awesome that they're back here.
And small.
That's my favorite thing about birds is their vast diversity.
I feared snakes. I would never have touched one when I was a teenager. Now I'm catching them all the time.
I'm Jill Pritchard with the Missouri Department of Conservation. Come get a Nature Boost with me. Find Nature Boost wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Could you hear it?
Yes, it was very good. Excellent.
Thank you. Oh, I'm glad that you can hear it. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's so much fun working on this podcast, and so I'm always very humbled whenever we get a positive response from people. So I'm glad that you could hear that, get a little taste of it. All right, Karen, are you ready to chime in?
I am, and
okay.
Thank you for doing that.
Well, I'm glad you told me. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and so, hey everybody, I am Karen Hudson, And Jill is going to be helping me out here because I'm on the oldest MDC laptop ever. And when I turn the camera on a lot of times, it will disconnect me. And two, I am super shy, well, kind of on camera. So those are the two things going on. Just a little bit about me. I'm the I work as a statewide marketing specialist. And I've been in that position for about 18 years. I've been with the department for just a little over 30 years. So that's quite a long time since I finished my undergrad. And I hired on not doing marketing, but working in the photo lab, which was a lot of fun. And while there, I kept seeing all these cool products and content we had. And I kept bugging my supervisor at the time about marketing them. And I think they turned me down at least a dozen times until they said, okay, fine, let's just give her a page in the Conservationist and she can market, I think I did 4 books maybe or something like that. And at that time, people didn't do credit cards. We got buckets and buckets of mails with checks and stuff in them. And it was just me. And so people around the department were helping me fill orders. And that's kind of how we sort of jumped into marketing. When I'm not there, I live in southeastern Callaway County, right on the Katy Trail, and I love riding the Katy Trail. So that's a little bit about me. Back to Nature Boost, we did do something recent we changed up our marketing a little bit, and we added in Snapchat this past fall. And oh my gosh, we were just doing it as a temporary test, and we were blown away by the response that we got to our outreach on Snapchat. That audience is definitely younger than what's on Instagram and what folks, the average age on Facebook. And so that was a pretty big change for us, just to go that way. So I don't know if TikTok's next, but maybe. The other thing that was a challenge for us in launching during COVID was the fact that we weren't going to be able to have any events or anything that we thought we might do on college campuses to launch the podcast. And so being on social media where that key audience that we wanted to reach, that was really important for us to double down on that since we couldn't do that. And as Jill noted, it was successful. So really, a really, really cool podcast. If you don't listen to podcasts, I would encourage you to this to be your first podcast. So I thought what I would do is just talk a little bit about Marketing 101 and how we approach it at the Conservation Department, with really just one of the first things we always talk about besides our audience is the 4 P's of marketing: product, place, price, and promotion. Along with that, our goals at MDC, we kind of have 3 sort of overarching simple goals with marketing, and that is always to gain the audience's attention, promote the benefits of nature, and then of course to engage Missourians to participate. And that really is whether or not we are promoting a more tangible product, say like the Conservationist hard copy magazine in the mail, or maybe a hunting and fishing permit, or something kind of more intangible like an experience when you go hiking or bird watching. So whatever the product is, we are basically trying to sell an experience. And I think a lot of times when I talk with other organizations that are nonprofit or kind of in the same business that we're in, a lot of people just think about marketing as being just sales and advertising, and it's really so much more. I have the privilege of being involved with both of these products, and I mean, it just, the value that it can extend to the audience is, I just don't even have all the words for it. So, you know, having that experience that you're selling is just really important, whether it is tangible or intangible. We also are hoping that the audience will gain a sense of satisfaction from what we're offering, maybe even make a difference in their lives. Getting back to the health message that Jill was talking about with Nature Boost being really important to a lot of people, and especially now in a time of COVID. But it's very refreshing for the younger generations to have a big focus on health, because I think it benefits, you know, the Gen Xers and the boomers and matures and other generations as well. So, but, you know, ultimately building a relationship with our audiences is our goal. Stephanie mentioned trust in her coverage with the Conservationist, and that's really important for us to have that credibility within the capacity of the organization to, you know, have that trust with the audience, deliver our products in a way that is not misleading, whether it's an experience or a fishing permit. You know, you want your fishing permit to, it's not going to help you catch more fish, but you certainly want it to be correct with your name and, you know, all that kind of good stuff, and that you got the right fishing permit. So that's a little bit about what we think about when we're looking or talking about the product that we're going to offer. The next thing we think about is place. So we have started thinking about meeting our customer at their crossroad. And that's really important because people are busy, you know, trying to pull them away from some other thing is just too hard. So but if you can meet them where they're at and introduce them to your product, you're maybe going to have a little bit more success in getting them to adopt what you're offering. The other thing is, boy, in today's world, it's going to take a really, really, really powerful pitch to promote some kind of action. And it's easier to do if you meet them on their turf. I think that's really true when you break it down between whether it's a consumptive outdoor activity or a non-consumptive outdoor activity. So someone in an urban area is probably not going to be way over on the spectrum to jump into, you know, immediately go deer hunting. But they might be really up for going bird watching or nature watching in Forest Park. So just keeping that in mind and where they are, and then promoting that idea that nature is outside. It's outside in your backyard, your street, your community, your city, the state, and the fact that we have some pretty darn neat, diverse nature in the state. Geographically, critters and opportunities to go hiking, fishing, canoeing, and all that. The next important thing that we consider is price. And for us, most of the time we associate value with that. So we ask, what is the value of what we are offering to that target audience? We think about that audience, making sure that we can, as much as possible, align that benefits with their needs. So during COVID, we know that we sold 4 times the amount of fishing permits than we have probably since the late 80s. And that's, you know, what do we do with that information? Is it because more people weren't commuting and they had time to go fishing? There weren't other things you could do? So we're looking into that more deeply to find out what that value and benefits are and why we did have such a jump during COVID right now. So that also leads us to considering a lot of benefits. You know, what is that array of benefits? Is the value different for all of the segments that you're looking at? Because you're not just looking at one audience. So hopefully when you think about your product and your place and your price value, then you can kind of start thinking about how are we going to put together our promotion. And so for us, our promotion is it's all integrated. It is the Missouri Conservationist, it's Nature Boost, it's our website, all of our print collateral, all of our social media, and even our advertising. All of these things have the unique ability to reach our audiences. We try so hard to tell stories that will set the organization, the fact that you can get out in nature apart from other things that might take away from, time away. There's a lot of competition out there for us to gain that audience's attention. And so we try to do that. And I think what's really important for your group is that you guys have a really unique organization, and it's different and it has a lot to offer. So I think just thinking in terms of how and what your audiences care about, where they're at, maybe just even inviting them, to come and share a meeting with you or a special event that you're doing when you can do that again. I think that if it's something shareable, they'll tell other people about it. You guys can tweet and email about it and share. And then that's what makes a big difference and gains you more folks, coming around to hang out with you. So I think that's where I'm gonna be quiet for a minute and see if there's any questions.
Karen, this is Michael. I don't necessarily have a question, but I just have to, I'll share with everybody else. Podcasts are the bomb. I can't tell you how many podcasts I subscribe to, but I haven't listened to live radio for years now because I'm so overwhelmed with the number of podcasts that I have. And I really enjoy the Nature Boost one especially. So I'll put a big plug in for you there.
Thank you. We think it's awesome. It's my favorite podcast, next to a mystery one that I listen to a lot.
Well, you're second behind Wait, Don't Tell Me as far as I'm concerned.
I'll second that. Yeah.
That's a good one too.
So yeah, actually, I wasn't familiar with that podcast, so that's something I'll have to do some downloading. And since I stay up too late at night anyway, I'll have something to listen to. But I'll need something to put me to sleep, and I'm sure this won't. I mean, this will just excite me, right? I'll just be all pumped up, and I can't get to sleep anyway. So how long has the podcast been out now?
We launched Earth Day 2020, so almost a year now.
Goodness. And I'm sorry if I missed this, but how many episodes would that be then? How often do you put them out?
Well, and so normally we've been doing, we kind of had this in our head that, we're going to do seasons of the podcast. So the first season focused on nature and health. We had 4 episodes. And then we released some bonus episodes in between that and the second season. And so I think we have 2, we call them mini boosts, where they're little mini episodes, and they're just a few minutes long, really. And so we have, I think, 2 mini boosts and a bonus episode. There are 3 bonus episodes right now. So there's about 15 out right now, I believe, maybe 13. Yeah, it's hard to keep track, but we have more coming this spring whenever we launch our once a month which we're looking forward to. And I'm really looking forward to having the listener form to where they can submit topic ideas as well. I'm looking forward to seeing if people use that and you know, what they're thinking would be fun episodes to cover. So yeah, a lot of fun things happening.
Hey, Jill, do you have a favorite episode? In case folks could, you know, if they go there, they know which one to pick first.
I have two. There's the second episode on bees, where I interviewed MDC biologist Erin Shank. She's actually out of Powder Valley in the St. Louis area. And we just talked about bees and just how important they are and pollinators in general, you know, for our nutrition. I really loved that episode. And then I have a few episodes with state ornithologist Sarah Kendrick talking about birds. And I love talking to her. She is such a hoot. And all of our episodes together are just very fun. There's two out right now that we have with Sarah. So I would definitely say those two are some of my favorites for sure.
One last fun fact is when we do launch a new episode, we usually launch on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Folks are busy on Mondays, and Fridays they're thinking about the weekend. So just a fun fact in case you guys make a podcast and you want to launch it.
Very good. Any other questions? I think this is pretty good. Great discussion, man. It's something so common to all of us. I think we've all been so familiar with MDC and their offerings. Podcast truly, to me, is a new offering I'll have to check into. But conservationists, again, that's been around. It's so much part of our lives. It's pretty cool to see the inside works on that. So appreciate you all. As I tell all our speakers, you're very, very welcome to stick around and for the business section, but most people say, I haven't fed my kids at this point, or they haven't fed themselves yet. So you're also welcome to drop if you like. But real quick round of applause for our speakers. Very nice job. Well,
thank you so much for having us. It was so fun to talk with you all and share about the podcast. And Stephanie did an amazing job on the Conservationist. So yeah, I'm going to dip out and get a late dinner. So I appreciate you guys for having us. And I'm definitely open, you know, if anybody ever has any ideas on the podcast or would, you know, even like to be interviewed on it, let us know. Get in contact with us for sure.
Yeah, and I'm always available if you guys want to talk marketing ideas. I teach marketing for Columbia College in Columbia. So if you want to brainstorm or have a meeting where we do a little exercise or something, that would be really awesome. I could have marketed anywhere, but I get to market nature. It's pretty awesome.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I also have to go feed my kids and myself, so I will bow out. But thank you so much for having us. And I know Michael has, I think, all of our emails, so feel free to share those. You know, I'm definitely open to any questions or requests if you guys have any. You know, if you guys have any ideas for articles, shoot them my way. We appreciate all of that input, so thank you.
Yeah, if there's a product or service we're not offering, be sure to let me know.
We're not shy. We will. We're as pumped about this as you are. So thanks again so much for your time.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, it's a good thing I don't get a review on my ability to keep within the time constraints on things, because the speakers sometimes run a little bit, but we always have such fascinating speakers in that it runs a little bit. So we'll go straight into the business meeting portion of it here, but I think I've got, Michael asked me to put up first and foremost Gene Favara. I see somebody out there from St. Louis Audubon Society. Is that who Gene is, or?
That's Gene.
Okay, I'll let Michael take over there if you want to introduce Gene, or did I just do that?
Well, I think you just did, but I'll let Jean speak for herself.
All right.
Sure.
So, Bob, I just want to do a process check since we're running a little bit late. I have about 10 minutes worth. Is that okay still?
Sure. Yeah, we promised you 10 minutes, you get 10 minutes. That's the deal.
Excellent. That's great. Welcome and thank you for having me tonight, everybody. I'm excited to talk to you tonight about a project that I hope you'd be interested in helping us with. I recognize a lot of faces, so hello to all of you who already know me, and hello to folks who don't know me. I'm Vice President of Conservation for St. Louis Audubon Society, and with no further ado, I will start sharing my screen and talk to you about a project here. Let me see if I can get this to work. So, and Bob, I'm thinking with this group that it might be easier if we do this, that you